Alright, so today I will be going over a project which I was minorly a part of as a consultant. And this customer is a customer that I'm supposed to help with a second project in very short order. So I am just introducing you to it. This was the original house, which was in Longville, Clarendon. This is what was there when I went there, and we started our little checks and balance from this point. So this is like a little one-bedroom studio that was sold to the persons who lived there. So what would have happened is this: there was this customer that had a drawing and he was about to execute construction. He was getting quotes, but he wanted to ensure that his budget and his planning was done properly, so he did not run out of funds or didn't have any added stresses. Now, this person is a very young professional in Jamaica, and these are the kind of people where I like to follow along a journey in terms of construction and like to see how successful they get. So I can look through my pictures to show you some updates. Now, these are a few pictures after the excavation and the foundation was cast. This was where the modifications were done to the house in terms of adding reinforcements. Then, these are some other pictures from some different angles. These pictures that I'm going through were sent to me by the customer. They were trying to have a particular discussion around some matters. So I had to do a site visit, and in my site visit, I did my drone pictures to point out where the errors were. So there were some errors here, and I marked them out on the picture to ensure that the customer have an idea as to what they're dealing with. So I did this, and he did his checks and balances with the person that was doing the work. Now, after doing that markup, I actually, referred back to the drawing to point out the fact that these are the points where the walls were actually running, which they were not supposed to be running. So actually the customer had a bit of accountability being done on his part, in the sense that he knew that there were things that were off that needed to be fixed. Now, this is from the floor plan. This was my check. Funny enough, with all these checks, he would have gotten approval regardless of doing these foundation wrong. So that's why I said most times with people that the parish council will check to a point, but there's limitations as to how far they will go. Now, these are some little Johnny Crab tour work that I had to do to point out some of the errors, because there was a problem with like the floor level, and the fact that the level was actually running below the grade of the land. So the customer couldn't see it, and me I feel look a bit of a Johnny Crab to a drawing style to try to do a demonstration. Seemed like he figured it out, so it was not like a big deal, but he was aware. So that was my whole intention there, for the customer to be aware. Now, these pictures that you're seeing are taken from my drone. That was when I did the inspection to do the markups. Let me see if I can show you several of them. So I did a picture from the front, and I started going overhead to line up the structure and the property to make my point, which was that the walls that were supposed to be in this area were actually missing, and walls that were supposed to be erected here from the foundation was also missing. So I have that. I usually use my drone to take these pictures to be on point when I'm making overlays to ensure that customers understand what claims I am making. This is the point that I marked out in green, and this is the area that I said was actually outside of the drawing. So this is another overhead that I did, and this is another one from the front. So those are the pictures that I took on my drone in the earlier part of the work. Now, after, the house moved from that point, then I didn't have any other picture until he reached almost at the finishing. This was when the rough cast and render was done. For some reason, we can't find some of the other pictures as well that was along the process, so I only have to present it this way. But that little house that you see, which was this was a transformation a little bit later, and at present this is what it is now. So we have moved from it being this little house to this house with the same old color scheme, but this is pretty much what the transformation is looking like now. There's a little bit of perimeter fence and etc. that is supposed to be done, but it is pretty much habitable at this moment. Yeah, 1 and 2 works inside that still need to be cleaned up, but it's not too far away from finish. But one of the greatest thing about this project is that the customer had a good experience. They were aware as to what was to be done. They were on top of it because they had their calculations and they had the support that they needed. So it's one lovely project. I'm supposed to go and do a site visit and take some drone pictures to show as updates, but at present I am not available to do that. So that's an update. And also, finally, I actually got my recommendation out the customer. So this is a testimonial from the customer himself. Well, like I said, he's a young professional. Some people know him. These are statements which would have been given by the customer. Let me try to go up close. And if you want, you can read through them, see the questions that were asked and the answers that were given. And, you reach a point of would you recommend and why, and, he gave his input. So it's a pretty much successful project, and the person is looking to do another project soon. So I'm rather happy about the results. And hopefully when he's doing the other one, I'll be more on point to show you more. But these are some of the projects that, I can't present the cost related to these projects, as these are confidential matters. But in this case, I'm just presenting the final product. But like I said, at the end of the day, I got my recommendation, and that's what I always want. Is that I want to demonstrate that when I work with customers, they get the results, and I get the recommendations that I want.